Hey y'all, I am back again. So this is Joy, also known as Dr. Joy, and I am doing another vlog. All right. So in our last episode, I talked about some photos that went over the span of a few months, maybe like 3 or 4 months, all the way up until I feel like it was like September of 2022. So after that time, there were not really a lot of selfies, a lot of photos. It was certifiable like kind of crash out period, right? So the first photo that you're gonna see, I look different than I did before. I look refreshed. I look like I could exhale. That was definitely a space in my life where I feel like I was getting my mind wrapped back around life and moving forward and making decisions about what I was going to do to kind of start fresh. So many things had happened in my relationships and things like that, that it was about that time, especially at the time of this photo. So by the time that I had done this photo, I had also been doing yoga in the studio for about 6 months. And I had mentioned what happened there, where I figured out somebody had been basically coming to my class every week to just be present and be like a negative presence in my space and that type of thing. Nonetheless, that was a really eye-opening experience for me for what was possible with the work that I do and how it can impact people, the feedback that I got from everybody, being able to use one, of course, our yoga mat, so being able to use rope for rope tying, being able to utilize meditation, um, tuning forks, being able to pull oracle cards, all those types of things, right? Really incorporating it more into our practice, into our community. And we would do 90-minute classes, and it was loved by myself and by them. And it became way more organic for me to be able to show up. I used to be nervous every time I was going to class, but closer towards like the last months, I just felt um present and I felt good, right? And I felt fit too. I had to be doing yoga all the time, so that was a really good thing. So basically what happens in between this time period, I know I had talked about Barbados and that type of thing, but I had been going through so much of my awakenings and understandings of myself and what I wanted to have aligned with me, the type of energies and protect excuse me, the type of protection that I needed in order for me to be able to function well, and for me to be able to function in the work that I'm supposed to be doing, right? And so I had ended up ending my live-in partnership relationship, and then basically a few of the other partnerships also started to. I came to the realization like this is like the end of the road for this for that part of my life. And although everyone was important and is important, right? Everyone is an important person, but everyone was important for that piece of my journey. I think we felt like we were all in agreement that our journeys were going in different spaces, and it felt like for the most part everything had ended without animosity. Mostly, yeah, with for most people it was like decent parting words, or so I thought. So that time period where there were no pictures and things like that was like a lot of the stuff that I described before happening with the car, me being in a car accident, getting a new car, the car being tampered with, me ending pretty much all of my partnerships. But when I ended my partnerships, not gonna lie, I didn't think that I would be by myself. I didn't think that I would be single that long. Um, and I kind of started back up with like my little bit of like a rotation of talking to a couple of people, but it wasn't quite hitting. What I was looking for was, similar to what I had before, like security and being central with somebody, but it felt like it was becoming more and more difficult to find like a genuine connection. Truth be told, I might have just still been like in love and not open to deeply connecting with someone. So it was really hard for me to be intimate with anyone else and like enjoy that. And so at some point in time, I just kind of like, it's like I couldn't bring myself to be intimate with people in that way. And there was always like a lot of requirements. Like, let me see your PDF printout for your test. I don't think it's a big deal, but some people think it's a big deal. But I made sure like it was a lot of blockages that got put in there to the point where like I don't even want to bother anymore. Maybe I need to just kind of sit with myself. And I was trying to understand all the things that had occurred with my friends, with my partnerships, but also with my family, with my kids, and what was the thinking that was going on. My terrible ex, my narcissist terrorist ex, um, in in between a lot of these things happening, especially as I would continue to blossom and I had like regular classes and I was posting every week and I was engaged in my life, right? Um, he was doing things like calling CPS for no reason. The kids weren't even living with me at that point. My kids had gotten to a certain age, and my son, there were no men in my house, right? And I asked my son if he wanted, like, to stay with his dad. And I had always talked to him about like what age we would, they can make the decision about this, that, and the other, whatever. And he and his sister were usually typically not separated like from each other. So my son did go to live with his dad, and eventually my daughter had to go out my house and live with her dad. Um, I had not realized until later on, like that my daughter, possibly my son, I'm biased anyway, was bringing back information about anything that I was doing in my house, anybody that I was with in my house, any friends that I had, if I went, whatever it was. My ex tried to convince me that I shouldn't have a relationship at all. I shouldn't like I shouldn't be allowed. Like seriously, he's remarried by the way, but I should not be allowed to do anything other than listen to whatever he said. And that wasn't happening anyway, me listening to him. So um, I felt like he would give up. No, he didn't. So things kind of continue to get like heavy for me because um, as I had my kids living there, I was picking up my kids. He used to get them every weekend. And so I started to go every weekend to get the kids. This is even after he took my passport. Okay. So I went to go get the kids every weekend, and uh when I would go, he would be in another state. The kids would be like, "Oh, we're in North Carolina. Oh, we're in Tennessee." Um, he took the kids out of the country a couple times, but he couldn't without me signing for it. So it wasn't something I didn't know, but it would be a regular thing to travel, which I thought was great for the kids anyway. But it would be whenever it was time for me to get the kids, he would purposely be gone. And so this is me having raised my kids for the past 10 years by myself. So like, without their dad involved, whatever. Um, and suddenly I'm going a month and I don't see my kids, which is bananas. And we do not have a custody in the state of Florida. No one has custody unless you have a custody order specifically in. And we opted. I would not suggest it for anybody. I want to put that out there. No one do this. Don't do what I did. The judges got on me. Attorneys got on me every single time. Don't do this. We opted like we're gonna be friends. We'll be good forever. So we had no order. And so if there is no order, I can't enforce him making me making him give me the kid. It's bananas what you could just get away with. It's crazy. You don't know until you know. So anyway, um, he kept doing this. And he did it for like a straight month until I actually had to call the police when I was at his house to go get the kids. A whole situation happened. It was not good. It was not a good situation. And a lot of awful things came of that. A month later, he filed something at the city attorney's office. And I know what the process is because I was one of my jobs when I worked for the city attorney's office, worked there for 10 years, we both did, was a filing paralegal. So that if a crime was committed and the police didn't come like right away, you would come in and you would give me your statement and I would get witness statements and we would do all this stuff so that we could build the case and then connect with the detective to put a warrant out for your arrest and all those types of things. Well, this man went a month later after literally he fled in the car with my children. My kids are texting like, I don't know where we are. Da, da, da. I'm terrified. And the police are laughing at me. This is when I don't care how this goes with these vlogs. It is what it is. Like I entered into big girl world and realized that these people were in his pocket So he had the police in his pocket. There were attorneys. It was like, oh my God, there is no escape for me. So, when you feel powerless in these situations, it will push you to come outside of yourself. And especially when it comes to what you find to be really important. I found my relationship with my kids to be important. And I'm going to tap into that a little bit to really expand because someone might relate. It pushed me when I was being told I could not have access to my kids, or like, there's nothing we could do about it. Literally, this officer tells me, well, maybe if you're nice to him, like, what? And just like he tells me, maybe if you do whatever I tell you to do, you'll be okay. Like it is all these men telling me that you have no power here. Okay. And so I lost it. Like I lost it and tried to retrieve the kids, and that is not what happened. But I will say that after kind of processing more, I could recognize that the way it was reactive abuse, by the way. What happened was I reacted, but it was reactive abuse. So there has been, which we all have this, the paradigm of what you're supposed to do as a mother and how passionate you're supposed to be as a mother. And if you're not that passionate, that you're not really a good mother. You don't really care about your kids if you don't abandon yourself and sacrifice yourself, you don't really love your kids. So he kept putting me in situations that I was supposed to respond to in like tears and like screaming and being like, bleep, so that I could look whatever way that he kept painting. So apparently when he called CPS, he told all types of stories. I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't even know all the stories. I can't say in the 3D that I saw because I never bothered to look. They never bothered to follow up with me because I know that they knew that it was bogus. When they came to my house, it was like, this is laughable, but okay, I'll answer your questions. In any event, okay, this whole thing is happening where it is clear to me that I'm not going to be assisted in these ways. And I do feel powerless, right? When I'm unable to get my kids after a month and police are like, that, I was already dealing with a broken heart from like ending my partnerships, and one in particular, like I was a mess. And then but I was like, at least I have my kids, at least I have, yeah. So I'm going to say that was probably the last heartbreak that I have had. And that happened in between the time where there was no pictures. That I haven't had any more heartbreak since then. I don't know that it's even possible, but that devastated me, for me to grasp you can't see your kids whenever you want. Like you have lost the ability to be like, give me my kids. Like that is not, it's not yours anymore. They have displaced you. They have isolated you. They have done things. And then there was just so much. It was like, are they all working together, or it's just separately just coming at me? My ex that I had been living with sent me some message, some STD stuff, basically, right? And telling me whatever had gone on with him, with whoever he had been with. This is after our relationship was well over. And I'm like, why are you out of nowhere texting me? He's like, oh, this is what this person said they had as test results. Like, okay, boy, what are you telling me for? It's like, I don't know if you need to get checked. Like, I get checked. You stepped out of here, and of course I got checked because you're a hoe. Are you kidding me? Like, nah, don't worry about me. I'm all good. And given that I know who else you've been sleeping with, and I know that she sleeps with everybody who walks in this city, okay, you probably need to get triple tested, homie. Oh my gosh. But I know that even with whatever it is that I said to him, when he texts in such a weird, funky, funny way, like something's going on. He most like, and this is the thing, like I'll understand something, I'll put little pieces together, and then I look at the reaction. Also suggest this for you, right? How does this person respond when I say a truth to them? How do they respond when I say something that like is not true? You know, you could be defensive about things, you can be quiet about things, whatever. I said to this man, you are going around telling people that I have an STD. I know you are. When I say this man put his head down and scurried like a little mouse to his car, he didn't deny it because there was nothing to deny. Like, I know what you're doing. Like, I know, you know, when you're with someone long enough, you kind of know their MO. Like, it was surprising, but not surprising for a punk to do punk things, right? Not surprising for a person who literally said the words out of my mouth, like, you don't need a boyfriend. You can just, because he wanted to be able to just, whether or not we're in a relationship, just keep coming to me whenever he felt like it, right? Like keep me in that space and convince me for real that I don't need to be with anybody at all. I just need to be this single woman who allows him to come and run up in it when he feels like it. And this is stuff where people like they gaslight you enough, they subdue you enough and feel pretty confident in their belief that they got you, because I don't say too much in the moment. I don't pop off like that. I think about the stuff. I say poignant things when it's there, but when you're saying nonsense, I really don't say a lot. I just gather it in and compute my plan for you never being around me again in life. That's what I really do. And so when I recognized like he had done this thing and tried to spread something in the community, I'm thinking, and also they had gone on the dating app and made sure that I couldn't even get on the dating app. I'm like, y'all are really trying to make sure I feel very isolated and very much like unloved, I guess, which is weird. It's not that a person can't walk outside and have someone talk to them, which is it's not that difficult. It was more the idea of the betrayal that was digging at my spirit. Like, I can't believe they're really doing this thing. And so then when it came to my kids in combination with this and my car, I'm like, oh, I completely like curse. That was that heartbreak and the trail of heartbreaks. I probably had about 3 heartbreaks that happened, like all this. Those events activated in me a necessary change in my paradigm. I couldn't live in the world where I would believe that I was nothing, because you operate in a different way. You accept different things. And so everyone who is in this system of accepting like toxic things, it's like you get broken into so you can continue to accept the toxic things and be a part of the toxic circle. Like where you think you're going, we all cheat on each other. We all pass diseases around. We all lie all the time. Like we all just, allow our energies and spirits to mix with all types of other spirits, unknown or known. Like, no, this isn't me knocking a lifestyle, but mm, being a person who is just of mm, low love, right? Maybe you don't even love yourself. You can't help but do unloving things to other people. And I felt like I was attracting people who kept doing very unloving things. And maybe there was a period of me not loving myself, right? Because how come I kept attracting the same type of person? How come I attracted an entire community of betrayers? Like literally, what is this? And I feel like I would get inklings of stuff, but I would remain because I would tell myself, like, you're just, why would they do that? Like, you're being negative. And, but that's the thing. I'm not actually a negative person. And I don't think in a negative train of thought. My focus, legit, if you saw me walking outside, which I do every day, at least twice a day, right? You're like, who is this? I'm out here legitimately making eye contact with butterflies and birds. They look at you from the side. That's literally what I do. Like I stop and we have our little conversations. Like, ain't nobody thinking about all the da, 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 da. And at the time I would say I was still very much attached to nature, but it wasn't like I was in nature that much because there was always some chaotic relationship thing that had to be managed, right? It's very distracting, very distracting. So I kept having to whittle away at the people and the things. And then, lo and behold, I think it was which pictures. Let me look at the pictures right quick. When I found out about my yoga studio stalker, I basically converted my downstairs of my space to a yoga studio because people were telling like I have to come, we need to come. Da, 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 da. So I kept that going maybe for like a few months after. It was really only like a couple of people who really wanted to be able to continue in that way. But when I found out this person was watching me, I freaked out and I exited from the space. So that was what was going on with work. Then you have like the kids and family. And then for my job for like teaching classes, I was still keeping it together. I was like, it's going to be okay. You have ways to make money. You have ways to like heal yourself. And like I said, none of the breakups were like too icky in terms of what was said. There were things that happened after that were icky. I'm at my work and I am realizing that there are people who are coming. And at first I thought it was random where people would come and harass me in class, like say mean things in class, distracting things in class, but directed at me, like you're doing this wrong. And I mean the big one where I realized like, oh, this is a thing where someone told me to go and put on a shirt. I had something with this. I'm like, go put on a shirt. Like what? And I would teach groups for up to 500 people. Okay. It could be 2, 3 groups a day. And I started to be able to see, because you can see their email addresses or whatever, like they were the same people coming and harassing me, and I, removing people. Then I changed my groups where I was teaching them at like 3, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the afternoon to 5 a.m. to like 8 a.m. in the morning. Changed it. They still follow. Like, are you paid to come and be in all my classes or what? And when I notified the company about it, they literally told me there was nothing that they could do about it. Like, we can't stop people from going, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, there's actually people harassing me in on camera in class. It's not, they're not just impacting me, they're impacting my entire class. But when you can see the things that were happening in terms of they cut the pay in half. Then they like, and I asked for different ways and opportunities to kind of work with them in whatever promotion, whatever the case may be, right? They would either ignore me or just flat out be like, oh, it's not something we could do, and da 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 da. So then, I do what I need to do with the loopholes and I add classes. And then they're like, no, well, now you can't have this many subjects. They have to be 14 days apart. So I would have to literally create 21 classes. And then that became an issue. Then it was like, oh, we forgot to pay you. This is like a big company how could you forget to pay people? They kept doing these things as I continued to grow in popularity, as people would come to the platform and ask for me, ask for my groups. I had waiting lists for the support groups that I started doing. There was like maybe 5 of us who started doing a support group. So I had a waiting list for months for people to get into like the dating support group. They were really good groups. They were fun. They were good. They were informative. They were healing, therapeutic, all those things. And me just doing my job, but mind you, doing my job as a chocolate drop. No, that was not cool. That was not cool at all. It was very clear to me, like, that was the issue. That was not cool. Who do you think you are? And I was usually the only chocolate drop doing whatever I was doing. If it was groups, it was me, maybe one other person. If it was support groups, I was the only one. It just, and it grew to be more chocolate drops. But for most part, I would be like the one who was stepping into the spaces to do the things, not with like, oh, this is so hard and I resent being the only one. I didn't think about being the only one until I was reminded I was the only one. Like, people would do things like, oh, okay, I realized. Or they would flat out say, so it became evident that this was an area where like literally you're letting people come and harass me at work. You're letting and this is every day. Who can function like this? Nobody can function like this. So I left and I started my own platform with my own support groups and my own classes. And yeah. So I had stopped seeing therapy clients individually as much because I was working so much on this platform and doing their groups, right? So I at first I did not start to see clients right away. What I did, I think this is crazy. With me having people coming to my home and tampering with my car, with all these weird calls and communications and stalking and da 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 da. It's like I sold my house. The house that I got, by the grace of God, I sold my house. And it took some months to sell the house, right? And so I would say this time period is like this period where I knew I was selling the house. I knew I was shifting. I started the platform. I started the work I needed to do to like advertise and whatever stuff I needed to try to grow. People came to the platform and I felt very surprised and blessed that I had enough of a following from the space to be able to gain enough traction to have a really solid community. And a year later, when I still had the community, I couldn't believe it. But between the sale of my house and having the platform and some clients that kind of picked back up, I was mostly able to survive. And there's more things I think that probably happened, and I'll talk about like my nomadic adventure after I sold the house. But today, the time period was mostly spent um, trying to navigate three curveballs coming at one time. This is a very daunting thing because if you start to formulate beliefs when things keep happening, right? So a belief is a thought that occurs over and over and over again. So if someone is inputting a thought or a threat, um, a confusion, a fear, an animosity, if someone is injecting this in your life, they're making you think about it, right? They're telling you you're not safe. You're not, you don't have peace. There's no peace for you. There's no peace for you. Hey, guess what? There is no peace for you. And so you will naturally, eventually believe it, especially if you don't interject with anything else, with any other thoughts, or if you don't reaffirm the thoughts that you already have about peace and how you cultivate peace, how you protect peace, right? Whether or not you believe you can really protect peace, if you believe in a ritual that you have around protecting peace, that is protecting your peace, right? Like you empower yourself with creating the tools that help you. Like if I have a pretend wand, I don't have a wand, y'all, but if I had a wand, right, and me waving my wand reminds my nervous system and my brain that we are magical and we're protected, your interjected ideas and things that you keep trying to present and put in front of me, it's like watching TV and watching so much of it. It still will not make me believe, because my bigger belief is that my magic wand has a protective bubble around me that you're not able to pierce, right? So in the midst of all these things, I had to have times where um, it wasn't all positive. Like I was absolutely questioning myself, my lovability, and what I deserved, and you know why was this all happening? But what I never did, and I think this is another thing people want you to question, is question like God, especially if they don't believe in God. And I'm recognizing that some people probably in my life did not really believe in God. They understand the construct of religion and the power of organized religion, right? But actually having their own relationship with God, I'm like, the things that people did, like, you can't believe in God because you ain't scared at all. All right. Um, what they didn't what would never happen to me was me ever questioning, like, God, do you still love me? Or like, that was never a question. So even if I question my worth for a moment, when I remembered my relationship to God and how I identify my relationship to and with God and being of God, if I still love God, it is impossible for me not to love me. It wasn't possible. So that was a really important thing to protect. I don't feel that you have to have a specific religion or belief, right? But I do think that you should have a belief in something. If you worship red bottom shoes, that's fine. Have your tenets for red bottom shoeism. Okay. And hopefully these tenets are protective tenets, protective to your mind, protective from other people being able to interject. They say, what is it? If you believe in nothing, you'll fall for anything. You'll fall from anything. You'll be knocked down by anything if you don't believe in something. Okay. So whereas I think that the desired results for a lot of the stuff that was happening in that time frame was for me to be weak and lose all belief, my belief only got stronger, especially when I could see all these things happening, which were made it apparent of others' power. And then something out of nowhere would happen for me, which made it apparent to me of God's power. I'm like, wow, y'all ain't got nothing on this. There were, with the work going the way it was, and, me starting up the platform, it wasn't like rich out the gate. It was, I'm very abundant right now, but I'm not like rich, right? And I wasn't rich then. If anything, I was still struggling to be able to pay the mortgage before I sold the house, because I was now living there by myself. Now I wasn't getting this money in that I was getting from working with the company, regardless of how many hours I worked. And I made good money. Like I'm not complaining about like how much money. Ultimately, I was able to make enough to live. But when I knew that I had to let it go, it was clear. I was nudged. You need to leave. And they made it easier for me to listen that, oh, you need to leave. I think I had already told myself I was leaving in like October. I was like, I'm determined to be able to leave this place by October. And do this and this and this. And because of all the things that were happening, I left in July instead. That was it. That was the only difference. But having that type of faith made it easier for me to make that step and not be shaky all the time, not be frozen in fear of like, what am I going to do? I did the thing. If I got an intuitive nudge to create something else that would help my platform, or to work on a different body of work that would help me, not just the platform, but it helped me heal so that I could be a better community leader. I could be a better teacher. That's what I would do. And so I paid myself, I would say, right, to for me to have that space to completely demolish the old joy. And that happened. I feel like the relationships, your relationships do kind of make you, right? Like you are, when you say, what are you? Who are you? I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I'm a mother. I'm an employee. I'm an employer. I'm a firefighter. I'm a pastor. Your work really does define us. People like, what? So without the definition of what it was before, I had to recalibrate and like, what am I now? What is this? I don't work for someone telling me to do this or requesting me to do this. It has to be by my request that I do something new or present in a certain way. Like it has to be by my will and by my wish, right? And so what do I really wish for? Because now we're starting from scratch. So you might as well like do it the way you want. And that's what I did. um, and I can't say that it would never have happened, but I feel that it was very much guided to happen then, by all the circumstances that had kind of happened up until that point. And I'll say the last picture I had, like I looked like, whew, I was still in, I think that was right before I left, but I was like in the thick of survival, right? And then something, what do they say? It happens like slowly and then all at once. And it is like that. Like I'm slowly falling apart, slowly being sad, slowly being surprised that I actually got up and like I showered. Other thing that helped me. I don't identify my animals as emotion support animals, but they were. If I didn't have to get up every morning to walk my dogs, and then every night around a time where people eat, to remember to eat, to then walk to feed the dogs and then feed myself, that may not have happened. I may have withered away because what was the point, you know? I don't even like getting on the camera, even though you can't smell me. Who knows? We're gonna like do some retrograde smell-o-vision. I don't want to go back and be the smelly person. All right. So I would, work with something that kept me going, or doing the platform and things like that, but really taking care of the dogs and then transferring some of that love to me to take care of me too. And then thinking of the people that I have always showed up for, or always served, what would I tell them to do? How would I tell them to care for themselves? Right. Um, I don't really preach, but someone I'm sure might identify that, but I do practice what I speak. I do practice, I live how I speak, right? I live what I teach because I really believe in it. Because there were so many things that I could have been like taken out, and I wasn't. I feel like this was also in between, this time was the time where I went to my last Thanksgiving with my family, last time I saw my father. So that was 2023. And because he passed by, no. He passed this January, 2025. So I'm trying to think if this was the last Thanksgiving. I did a Thanksgiving by myself, but I did go to a Thanksgiving with them. I did. Okay. I'm gonna skip the Thanksgiving piece. But nonetheless, it was an eye-opening experience. I brought my kids, and I did a little work while I was there and all that type of stuff. And then, yeah, so it had to be in this time period because I was still working. And it was evident different things that were happening, that one of my sister, I'm gonna be secret, but my sister was heavily bothered, one, by my existence, by my like just doing my thing, being successful. Even when brokenhearted, I was picking myself back up. But my kids are good kids, they act they're respectable kids, right? That's how they were raised. Um, and it did not help when my brother's like, oh my God, your kids are so this and that, da, 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 da. You know, your siblings, your family, whoever, they can be going through their own amount of pain and you don't even know it. They don't necessarily tell you about their pain. It might come up in different ways where they're creating pain, but you don't recognize that it's coming from somewhere. At some point in time, my sister had like a moment where she's like, I don't know, basically saying whatever she had been learning from therapy. I'm still an advocate of therapy, but her going to therapy helped her figure out some terminology for maybe types of abuse that she had been through that she hadn't been able to identify before. And you would think that's lovely, but instead it just seemed like it made her angry. We I can't speak for everyone in my family in terms of whatever abuse they had. I know what I went through, and I know that I was a younger one, so they probably got more than what I got, is what I'm saying. I know specifically that there was a lot more, and there was a spoken about animosity for any of us who were basically living comfortably, and if she wasn't, it was not cool. Like, I'm in pain, so you should all be in pain. It was that type of thing. So, and my sister at one point was my best friend, right? Now she's my biggest fan, but like also my biggest enemy. Like, it's wild. It's like what everything. So I kept changing. So I'm saying everything kept changing, but I kept changing. And so the more I kept changing, the more I kept seeing, the more I kept saying, and things couldn't be swept under the rug anymore. I want to talk about the story, but I don't want to talk about it so much. But long story short, um, there were weapons involved. I can't get it. I'm just saying that you don't even know who people are. You don't know until you are on this crossroad in your path. You have no idea the hidden animosities that people have. And I don't have advice as to like, this is how you check. Ask these questions. You can't. You just see it when you see it. And whenever you see it, it's always too late. Because it's always someone that you like have a high investment in a relationship with them. Because the other people who are on the outside, the outskirts a little bit, even if they have animosity, they're not maybe around you enough for you to notice or actually care. They can't impact you that much. But when it's someone who's really close to you, you notice, but you always notice when it's like, I have loved you for all this time and you've literally been plotting on my life. Like, that's crazy. Um, yeah, it was a lot to wrap my mind around. So it just kept feeling like every time I would get up a couple of steps and I was doing a little bit better, I was making a little bit more like, okay, well, I've made it. And I thought also that, sharing this stuff with my siblings, like these are the new things that I've done. Like, oh my God, I got on the news or I just wrote this book or whatever. I can tell you they haven't read any books. If they have, they make sure not to tell me that they've ever even purchased a book. They don't talk about anything I do. I think the 3 days before my dad's funeral, which like I said was at the beginning of the year, whatever. I was on the news like 3 days before that, right? I have been on the news before, but no one said a word except for one cousin of mine who, whenever I see her, she openly says, like, oh my God, I follow everything you do and I read all your books and da, 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 da. Like, and she just goes all into it. Like, your family must be so proud. Like, when I say they do not talk about anything that I like it doesn't exist. Like, literally nothing I do exists. And I was watching something around like your narcissistic family and like the different, like how they feel and the different things that they do to kind of keep you in the loop or in the system. One of the things that, and I'm not saying it was intentional, but it was, my sister would do a thing where she would try to humiliate me in public often. And there was like this child mother dynamic because my mother passed at 19, right? So my sister was my go-to for I didn't necessarily live with her for long, maybe for like a semester or something, but um I primarily either lived on my own or I was married or whatever. But she would oh man, I'm forgetting, this dog is aggravating me. Um yeah, I just totally forgot. Wow. Like I got pulled right out of my brain. That's crazy. um, the point is I lost a lot that I never expected to lose. So, and I had a target on my back that I did not know was on my back, right? So this may sound or feel or appear heartless. When you are just trying to survive, I don't know that there is anything that's heartless. And I think everyone is trying to survive different things. So sometimes you don't have to be as drastic with your survival because you're not trying to survive something too harsh. But when you are trying to survive, you just do the best that you can. And I had to basically completely separate myself from anything that was toxic. Even going to my dad's funeral was a whole thing. I will get into that when I think that's like some photos up. But I want to say I'm speaking a lot about like a lot of betrayals because it's kind of been a build up to like this was the space where I kind of hermited. Like I went inside. I didn't deal with people like that. And I do not regret that at all. Not that I'm like throw everybody away. It wasn't that. It was time for me to process and understand each of my relationships and each of the paths that were taken, and what they meant and what they didn't mean. What they didn't mean. Things that I expected. I can't expect everyone to be like me, to think like me, to feel like me. And that's a big eye opener. And you're not looking for a duplicate of you, but you're looking for somebody that can hold space for you or not ask you to be small to be with them. I'm not asking anyone to be again wherever I am, right? Work wise or whatever. Um but maybe we should be asking for that. Maybe that was part of the lesson. Like, why are you not asking for it? Why is it that everyone that comes, um, a lot of people that come across you are people that you have to save? Well, that's what I do in my work. But I don't want that to necessarily be reflected in my personal relationships. And that may have been a thing for me to kind of explore as well, kind of having that realization right now, like, when are you not being a therapist? And I do say a lot, like I am who I am, and that's just how I am as a therapist. And I don't therapize people. I don't like diagnose people that I know or anything. I don't even consciously diagnose them. I'm not like, oh, they got, da, da, da. I turn it off. But what I do is I am a mirror by nature, right? I reflect back the energy you give me. It's not intentional. That is just who I am. I reflect back what you give me. If it's love, I give you love. If it's weirdness, you probably gonna get weirdness. But it takes me a while because it's not natural for me to be weird. Like it takes me a while to understand what's happening back and forth, and that I've just now looped into a toxic situation. And maybe I keep trying to show you, like, well, this is what compassion is, and da, 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 like a lot of different chances. But when you realize that you can have someone in your family who's like, hated you for 40 years, long game stuff. Oh, um, so the takeaways, this definitely wasn't going to be a long one. The takeaways from this is open your eyes to where you are. Like, take time to sit down and be like, what timeline am I on right now? Like, who am I? What are the characteristics I have, right? And then if you look at the different relationships you have, how does who I am line up with this particular relationship? Is this like, are they going to understand me? Am I going to understand them? Is this relationship something that's pouring into my, not just my growth, but my trajectory towards my purpose? Or is it something that literally hinders me for my trajectory? This is important. We feel like we have to stay connected to people just because you're supposed to. And that is a part of a family framework that was given to us by people who wanted to be in power. And the way that you stay in power is you convince everybody else that they are powerless outside of the rules, right? And if you do break the rules, and you might be abandoned. Let me tell you something. If you get abandoned by a bunch of zombies, I think you'll be all right. If you get abandoned by a bunch of freaking werewolves on a fucking full moon night, I think you'll feel fine. Oh, the pack ran away? Like, you'll be fine, right? So your punishment to me for not following your rules is that you're going to put me in silence. Oh my God, you're finally going to stop pointing out everything that I do wrong. You're finally going to stop being shady because I won't have to look at you, right? You're finally going to stop clocking my seat like, oh, okay. And that's the worst thing that could happen to a person or people who feel like they are doing the silent treatment on you, is for them to recognize that you're like running through a freaking sunflower field happy because of the silence. But then when they learn that, then they want to like come and not be silent because they want to aggravate you. Like, oh, well, you don't want to be bothered with us, so let us bother you. Awesome, another video. But that is the takeaway for me, was like really assess where you are at and what you are continuing to hold on to and how it is actually serving you, how you might be hurting the other person trying to stay in their life, right? Like maybe you're aggravating them having to deal with the way that you are, right? You can allow yourself to exit out. If people can't openly and unconditionally, this is not me saying you can do anything to me, but unconditionally means I don't have conditions for you have to be this way in order for me to be around you. You have to laugh like I laugh. You have to find the same things funny. No, but what I do appreciate is I have a boundary around being around people who call people derogatory names, right? And that's not me saying it's not even me saying that I don't love you, but I don't love that energy and I'm not going to be around it. And I can still love you unconditionally from over here until either like that's something you stop doing or just, never. Because if you're not going to stop doing it, I'm not going to make myself be around it for the sake of love. Like I get love. Like I said, I am love. I get it. And love doesn't beat itself up. That's not what love does, right? If anything, you might be teaching other people in your family, in your friend group, people who have relationships around you, that when you do, yes, lose it all or let it all go, and then you continue to breathe and walk, the people who have been dying to have that opportunity are no longer terrified by the story of abandonment. I will never be lonely. I will never be alone. Will I have another romantic partner? Yeah. I mean, yeah, why not? Will I get married again? I don't know. I know what I am going to do, whatever I want to do. That's definitely what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to be sad about it, but that took time for me to put together in my mind that it is okay for me not to be sad about being removed from a pack of wolves. I'm not sad about that. I'm sad that people felt like they had to put so much energy into doing whatever they were doing around me, but to be removed from something that was constantly anxiety provoking and self-esteem attacking, no, I'm not sad. So I think I'm gonna leave this one at this. I've been doing some pretty long ones lately. So that's pretty much all I have for us today. Check in with who you are, how you are, keep an eye out if your relationships are in alignment with that, and do not be afraid of whatever the prescribed punishment is for you protecting yourself. Okay.